eventually like both of the cards stop working completely.
Pulling yourself up from the bootstraps, you're like, I need to learn this. Like, I have to learn this to have a successful business.
I would send a meeting invite on my phone to Lauren, like, hey, we're going to have this monthly business
I'd
review.
decline. I'm just kidding.
Sometimes you would decline.
It's amazing. Like, it paid off. I didn't know it would ever pay off. I thought we were in the trenches forever in that type of season, where we were working late nights, early mornings forever. I really did. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 2 of the Grace-Filled Growth Podcast with your hosts, Lauren and Connor. We're a husband and wife team who started selling on Etsy with zero experience, zero design background, and a whole lot of late nights and early mornings. So fast forward to today, and we've done just shy of $2 million in sales on Etsy, left our 9-to-5 jobs, and built a business that gives us freedom, flexibility, and a purpose. In this episode, we'll be talking about finances. We're pulling back the curtain on the money side of an Etsy business. The good, the stressful, and the lessons we wish we had learned sooner. And stick around, because later in this episode, we're sharing the credit cards we use within our Etsy business. So let's jump into it.
All right, guys. So the first topic that we wanted to touch on was really what to expect as a brand new Etsy shop, kind of the realistic expectations. Everyone paints this pretty picture of all the revenue and all the sales you're going to generate. But what are like the realistic expectations, and what can you expect, especially as a brand new shop on Etsy? And so we figured we'd turn the clock back a little bit and look at Lauren's story when she recently opened an Etsy shop in 2022. And so it's been a few years since that point, but I think it's very relevant, some of the experiences she went through and what you guys as new Etsy sellers, if you're just starting new shops here in 2025, kind of what you can expect. And so, yeah, could you just share a little bit about your story and what you experienced during that time financial-wise?
Yeah, so when I opened my shop, I had no idea that there were going to be payment holds or that you might want to have some cash to be able to utilize as you get into your seasons. But what I learned and what is continuing to happen now, and it's a little more strict now, I believe, but there's about a 90-day period of payment holds. So what that means is when you make sales, Etsy actually holds your payment, and so you don't receive them. And for those of you that are thinking that's really interesting, it is really interesting, because if you do get a decent amount of sales rather quickly, it can add up quickly as well. So that was something that I had experienced, and I ended up realizing that I actually needed to have, a couple $100 to maybe $1,000 at least to get started. And thankfully I was able to be in that position, but I had no idea that was the way Etsy operated. And so, just wanted to shed some light on that, just for those newbies out there that are looking to start the journey and kind of jump into it, that it's just good to have a little bit of cushion for yourself. And maybe sales won't be as quick as, some people, but it's always good to have that little bit of a cushion, just to be aware of that payment hold that Etsy has.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see over the years just how the Etsy marketplace has matured. I think it's become stricter and stricter, especially on the payment side. And so, like Lauren's hinting at it, it's even more strict since the last time she opened that shop in 2022, when even back then there were some payment holds that she had to deal with. And nowadays, as we see new users open up shops, that they have to deal with those payment holds as well, up to 90 days. And it can be really frustrating. And just for those of you who aren't as familiar with the print on demand model, right? As you get sales on Etsy, you'll generate that revenue. But what you need to do is go buy the items, your Christmas ornaments, or your tumblers, or your t-shirts, through your production partner. And essentially you have to front that money until Etsy pays you. And that's pretty much always the case. Even when those payment holds are taken away, there's always a couple day delay before you get that payment from Etsy. And so during that initial period, it just makes it a little more extreme, where it is helpful if you do have a little more cash on hand I think one thing I also want to highlight is I don't want to scare you guys away from opening Etsy shops if you haven't done that already. I think it's very unrealistic to think that, you're going to generate thousands and thousands of dollars of sales within the first week or within the first month. That's pretty unrealistic. And honestly, Etsy will kind of even limit your visibility as they on a brand new shop. They won't let you kind of take off that quickly. They'll stop showing some listings as it can be a red flag to them. They want to make sure you're shipping out your items, that you're delivering what you say you're going to send to your customers. And so it'll happen slowly over time, and you'll be able to build up that fund or that cash flow so that you can more easily fulfill those orders. And so, I just wanted to add that part just to not scare people away, because it definitely can sound overwhelming.
Yeah, good point. And I think too, just as we head into that Q4 season, just have in mind that have a little bit of cushion, because you really don't know what the Q4 season can bring. It could be slower, it could be faster, it could be you don't know. So just having that cushion in the back of your mind, or at least in the back of your wallet, to be like, okay, I think I can help support this a little bit more. That way you're not excited and then shocked and going through all these emotions that you're not really sure. So we just wanted to share that little part, that just personally I felt more blindsided. I think I was just more naive. In all honesty, I probably could have done more research on that part, but I just wasn't prepared for that. And I know a lot of sellers now are going through that, but it's more gradual, and Etsy is very transparent about that and tells you that. So again, like Connor said, it's not to scare you. It's just to make you guys aware if you aren't already aware.
Yeah. And I think just to share a little more, like going back a little further, when I started selling on Etsy back in 2020, it was definitely way less strict. There weren't necessarily those payment holds in place. And I think at that time, Etsy was starting to get flooded with like a ton of new users, millions of new users from 2020 to 2022, that time frame. And they started implementing these stricter policies. And just to share one example, like I think back in 2020, if you guys listen to episode 1, I started making like wood products, handmade wood products that we'd ship out ourselves. And we had one product, which was like a wooden reindeer, that ended up doing really well. It was sold in like a pair of 2 different reindeer, yard decoration for Christmas. Did very well. I took the photos myself in the snow in my front yard, and the listing did really well. Yeah. But what ended up happening is another shop literally copied that exact listing. They took the same photos. They literally just copied the photos, put them on a new listing, undercut the price, and they were making sales, like dozens of sales a day. And when I looked at their shop, they were doing this to a bunch of other listings. And this went on for like hundreds and hundreds of sales that they made with no intention of shipping the product.
During a peak season,
right?
You guys.
Yeah. And so things like that were happening back in the day on Etsy. And so when that happened and customers didn't receive their order, like Etsy fronted the bill. They had to cover that. And so over time, they've had to like put in stricter policies and payment holds for new shops just to avoid issues like that and make sure you guys are legitimate sellers who are sending the products you say you're going to send. And so I just wanted to share that.
And I think just going off of that is a prime example. I think as much as it can be a pain, it's actually really nice in a way, because it's protecting you and it's also protecting Etsy, which is the backyard we're all playing in if you're jumping in on that. And so I think it's just that extra layer that is nice to have, to prevent situations like Connor just talked about. So it's a pain, but a blessing and a curse all at the same time. So, but that's really good insight. I love it.
Yeah. So the next topic we wanted to talk about, and I think the progression here is, so you've started your shop, you started to build some momentum slowly, that payment hold gets taken away, the cash flow is starting to get a little better, your daily orders are starting to increase. And one thing we wanted to bring up was an experience that we had as we started to grow in our business, and the daily orders started to increase. And so the print on demand companies that you guys will work with, whether you're using Printify or Inner Circle Prints, they both have a feature called like a wallet where you can basically upload cash, your funds, so that you can, as you place orders, take from that wallet each time instead of charging your card each transaction for each t-shirt or each tumbler or each ornament order that you process. And when those daily orders get up into the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and you're starting to run thousands of dollars a day on your card, it can become a real problem if you're not using those wallet features. And so, yeah, I guess, do you want to just share a little bit?
Yeah, I'm laughing over here just because it's at ourselves. So we, again, naively just decided that I guess essentially we didn't need to use the wallet. I don't know.
Even though Jesse warned us many times.
Said like multiple times, like, you guys make sure you use the wallet. Make sure you like start to build that cash flow in there so that it doesn't show multiple transactions on your bank statement. And I'm like, yeah, you know, we're good. Until we weren't good, you guys. It was a very scary moment for us. And Jesse had warned us this whole time, and we just were like, yeah, you know, okay. Sorry that happened to you. And it happened to us. We got blacklisted. We had way too many charges on our card at the time, and it was entering Q4. It was Q4.
No, so it was Mother's Day season.
Yeah, one of the bigger seasons.
In 2023. So it was that first year we were selling Inner Circle Prints products. And so, like we talked about in episode 1, we spent a few months building up to that launch, ended up executing really well, and had a very fruitful Mother's Day season. The side of the story that we haven't really told everyone, we make it sound really good, but it was a nightmare for a period there. And so what Lauren's alluding to here is that blacklisting that we had to go through.
It was incredibly stressful.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we had to navigate it very quickly because we had orders coming in.
Yeah.
And we had no way to pay and fulfill the orders.
Yeah. So just to give a little more context, we threw out the word blacklisted, but what does that mean? So when you process orders, when you pay for each of those products through any of those production companies, what on the back end, those companies are using a payment processor. And most of the time companies are using Stripe as a payment processor. That's probably the most common for every company that's out there, not just print on demand. And so what ended up happening for us is we were running dozens and dozens of transactions every day for all those orders we were getting, and thousands of dollars a day at that point. And we had multiple cards, and so we were using both of those. But what ended up happening was we were maxing out the daily charges, so the daily dollar amount and the daily just number of transactions that they allow, without really realizing it. And so we'd process a bunch of orders, then kind of out of the blue, one would decline, and we didn't really know why. We were like, we have plenty of money in the account.
Whatever, we'll move on to the next card.
Right. And we would try the other card, and then that one would eventually get the decline payment. And so,
and then we're like, okay, we'll give it a break and we'll start again tomorrow.
Yeah. And so we kept doing this for a while, very naively. And eventually, like, both of the cards stopped working completely, our business cards. And so I remember at one point, like, Jesse called me because at that point we were doing high volume for ICP. It was the beginning of ICP, and we were trying to figure out, like, why can't I process these orders? And Jesse was like, here's my phone number, like, call me. Yeah. Like, let's try and figure this out. And he was working back and forth with the dev team, trying to figure out what was happening.
We were causing major issues.
Yeah.
And we didn't know it.
And what it ended up being was that we got blacklisted on Stripe. So for those of you guys who don't know, if you get blacklisted on Stripe, like, there's no return. You're not coming back. Like, you have no chance. That card is dead.
You are in the black hole.
Right. So you essentially, what we needed to do is open up a new bank account, change banks, get new cards. And the problem with that is when you're in a peak season, you need those cards to be able to process those payments. And so it was a very stressful time. What we ended up having to do is like on our personal cards, run thousands of dollars a day for like a 2-week period as we switched banks and got new cards.
Closed the bank, went to the next one, or closed whatever the account, went to the next bank, opened that up, waited for that process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very humbling moment. And I mean, I'm laughing now because it's hilarious that we just didn't listen.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And how ridiculous it is. And if we just listened and decided to use the wallet feature, that could have saved us this whole problem.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here telling you. So I'm just laughing at ourselves because it's just comical that we did something during a peak season and it just was a mess. So we came out of it, and we just ultimately want to share that wallet feature with you guys, and hopefully you guys listen and don't be like us with that feature, that you actually utilize it, and it will really help limit those, flags on your bank card, or companies calling you and saying, hey, like, is this fraud?
Mm-hmm.
All that headache that you really don't want to be dealing with. So at the end of the day, yeah, the wallet is actually the biggest blessing of the POD platform, I think, because you can build it up, and then not all your charges, like I said, are going on your bank statement, and you can see the amount that's in there, and it's a great feature, and most platforms have it, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I think as you become a higher volume seller, and like we said, it's likely not going to happen overnight, right? You're not going to have thousands of orders within a week of starting, but over time you start to be able to predict better what's coming, especially as you head into those peak seasons. As you go into your second or third Christmas season, you kind of know what to expect and what cash flow you need to have on hand and ready. And so if you're one of those sellers, or you're heading into your second or third Christmas, one of the things to be aware of is just leading up to that season, like start to build up your wallet, like start to put more funds in there, with the expectation that, hey, the orders are going to start coming, and if I have those funds built up, I won't run into any of those issues with the number of transactions or potential issues with getting blacklisted.
And you can do it like once a week, or you can do it, a couple times a week, depending on what your finances allow.
Yeah.
But like Connor's saying, it's one less thing you have to stress about as you get into a busier season, if it's your second or third season going into, Q4 or whatever it is. But it is really nice, and it's comforting to see that number in there, and your bank only has one charge.
Right.
So, yeah. So let's get into it. So what credit card do you use for the business?
So guys, we actually don't use credit cards. We actually don't even have a credit card on our personal side or on our business. And so that may be like mind blowing to a lot of you guys, but we'll try and share a little bit more of why we don't, and just give you guys a little insight.
And also too, I just want to share that this is a decision that works best for us, and that we've decided to do this for our journey. And so whatever works for your journey is perfect. We're just sharing what works best for us and why we're doing it. And so we just wanted to touch upon that. But yeah, let's jump into it. So let's talk about our non-existent credit cards.
Yeah. So first off, I would say, like, we're well aware, and you guys are probably going to kill us in the comments, but we're well aware, as we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in our business just to fulfill orders, we're leaving a lot of airline miles off the table. Like,
a lot of points. We know the points.
A lot of points, a lot of cashback rewards. We're well aware. But yeah, we've made that personal decision for our personal side and for our business side to just not have credit cards, to not rely on them. We're big Dave Ramsey fans. If anyone out there
Go Dave.
knows Dave or is a big fan of Dave Ramsey, we're fully aligned with that thinking. As we shared on the past podcast, we're Christians, and so that has a big aspect of it as well, and just not wanting to live a life associated with debt and using credit and things like that. Not that it's a sin or anything, or that it's bad. Like Lauren said, no judgment for anyone who does that and has credit cards. Nothing wrong with it. We have just chosen to not use them in our business. And yeah.
And we'll kind of get into some of the reasons, why we've decided that later on in this episode. But yeah, it just ultimately, we just don't want to have that weight of where, spending all this money and hoping for the return type of thing. And so we've just decided to go this route. And if you guys are using those points and miles, you take ours. We're super happy for you guys in that regard. But we just wanted to share this little part about us because it's a subject a lot of people don't want to talk about and aren't comfortable about talking, these things. And so we just wanted to share that, be transparent with you guys, because that's the whole point of why we're doing YouTube, why we're doing our podcast, is being open and transparent and just letting you in on our personal lives and sharing those little tidbits. So yeah.
I think one of the biggest reasons, and one of the things Dave talks about a lot, and he talks about obviously getting people out of debt, and also just like business entrepreneurship and guiding people through building and creating businesses. And one of the big reasons he preaches, no credit cards, is like, there's been many studies done that you're just way more likely and willing to spend way more money when you do have a credit card. You just perceive it as, oh, the bill will come a month or two later, I'll get to it. By then I'll have generated the revenue. And I think even in the Etsy world, we've seen this with like a lot of clients that we've worked with even, and just people we've come in contact with, like, it's very enticing when you start a new business to, I'll get a business credit card, I'll open that business bank account. Hey, now I need a brand new laptop, or I need an iPad. I'll throw it on the business credit card that I just got. By the time I need to make that payment, like, I'll have already started to generate sales. And it's just a really slippery slope. And so we share all this stuff just to like encourage you guys, like, use what you have when you start. Like, don't go down that slippery slope that you don't need to. You don't need all the top equipment right away. Use what you have and make it work, and build up that cash flow, build up that business bank account. Start with a couple $100s that you put into the business to get things going. But aside from that, like, you guys shouldn't need to be putting in thousands of dollars. You shouldn't be needing to start the business in debt, right? It's a very risky position to be in our opinion. And print on demand, the huge benefit of print on demand is that low risk, right? You can start a business with very little money, a couple $100s probably needed to just get started on Etsy, get some mock-ups, get a Canva subscription to your print on demand supplier. Very little, a few $100s. Aside from that, you really don't need much. And yeah, I just want to encourage people.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I want to shed some light on like the personal story, kind of what I touched upon when opening a new shop and the Etsy finances and stuff like that. So kind of going back to that, I didn't have a credit card. I was using a debit card. I was using all the money that I had. I wasn't using all the money. It was a cash flow, right? And so it stung a little differently in the sense of I knew what was going out and I also knew it was coming in. And so I share that because it's so important to not turn that blind eye on like, okay, like I hope it comes back, or like, okay, like I'm just gonna do these couple orders and I hope it comes in, or I hope I don't have any refunds. It made me very aware, and I mean that's what we do now. Is it just makes you very aware of what's going in, what's coming in, or sorry, what's going out, what's coming in, and it just, you feel it a little bit more when it's coming out of your personal checking account, whether it's a business account or personal account, whatever it is. It just stings a little bit more, and I felt for myself that I just paid a lot more attention to those numbers and making sure that things were actually weighing out, because if I was losing that money, it was actually money. It wasn't just, an imagination of money, right? So I just share that because in the beginning, I was the person that was needing to just have that $100 or $1,000 to like get me through that Q4 season. And like I said, I personally wasn't aware that I needed to do that, but thankfully I put myself in a position that I was able to. but I kept a close eye on it. I wasn't, spending thousands and thousands of dollars and hoping I was going to make it up. It was, hey, this is going out. I need to get this back. And I had a very tight grip on that. So at the end of the season, I knew what I had made, and, things started to look up, which was really good. But I just wanted to share that just on a personal side, just kind of what I went through early on and kind of how we continue to operate. We have a very tight grip on our finances, and we just know we're very aware, which I think is so important for any business owner to be aware of. So yeah, just wanted to share that little bit with you guys.
Yeah, I think the other side of it is it's really satisfying as you start your business from zero and start to grow when you can start to, upgrade equipment or buy those new tools or buy that new laptop. Like I remember, for example, I shared in the first podcast episode, when we started that woodworking business, we just used an old jigsaw that my dad had. It was actually my grandfather's jigsaw.
Yeah, it was pretty old. It was old. It worked great.
It had decades of use to it already. Yeah. And so we used what we had, and
she might have been smoking a little bit during those wood cutting sessions.
No, it definitely started smoking. We used it until it basically died out. And
it did.
Yeah, it was many months. We cut tons and tons of product.
Seasons, at least one.
Yeah, but I remember how satisfying it was when I did go buy that DeWalt jigsaw, like top of the line, the best one you could buy, and had plenty of money built up in the business bank account at that point. Felt like I had earned it, and it was an investment in the business to continue to grow. And doing it that way, I think, is just so much more satisfying than starting on day one, going out and buying that DeWalt jigsaw that I didn't need.
Going off of that, like, you feel proud too. Yeah. Like, it's a exciting moment for the business, and things are starting to, look up. And obviously that didn't happen all the time. It wasn't like we were buying things left and right, but those bigger purchases, it just made it feel more special. You cherished it a little bit more. Yeah. I think because you could see it.
Yeah. And I think to relate more to like print on demand sellers, I think like eventually we ended up buying new laptops. We ended up buying like standing desks just to make the work space more comfortable for us. But that's like very down the road. At the beginning, I had like a $20 table from Target. It was just like a folding white table. And so you use what you have at the beginning and you upgrade things over time.
And I sat on my couch, actually. Right. So that was just to share that little tidbit. He was on a Target table that was like $20.
Yeah.
And I was sitting on my couch on the armrest because I didn't have a desk or anything at that time. And so that's what we did. And then eventually we were able to upgrade. And I always remember this quote that my grandma says is that you learn to live on a little, and then you can learn to live on a lot. And I always remember that.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like just both of us going through the process of print on demand or just the Etsy business in general, like each thing that we did, we just really cherished each part of it. Even the stressful parts, like I said, like we've talked about before in episode 1, was not a beautiful journey, and still is not all the time. But it makes you appreciate the things along the way a lot more. And that's just speaking from experience. So, yeah.
Cool. So the next thing we wanted to talk about with you guys, I think it kind of goes hand in hand kind of with what we were just sharing about credit cards and things like that, is just a little deeper on the faith aspect. As we shared in the first episode of the podcast, we're Christians. And so one of our goals is to build a Christian-based business with the Lord at the center of that business, and everything that we do, the interactions that we have with our clients, with our team members, with each other, how we interact with our customers, how we handle finances, hence the credit cards, and just kind of all things around that. And so, yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I kind of want to touch upon, just going off of what Connor was saying, was we, in the beginning it was like, how much can we make, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you start getting excited and you start feeling like, how much can I make this season? Or how much can I make this month? Or, you strive and strive and strive, which is an amazing goal. And something that we really just had like a moment together. And I think it was probably in a church service that we had attended. And it just made us reflect a little bit more. And it's completely changed our perspective and how we operate. And actually, we've changed this a while ago, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Over the
when.
last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But our whole mentality went from how much can we make each month or how much can we make each year to how much are we able to give this year. And so we just share that part, not to brag or not to be like, hey, woe is us. It's more to say just like we have come to recognize that everything that we have on this earth is not ours to begin with. And like, especially the money aspect, like the money is never ours to begin with. We always see it as it's the Lord's, and he's providing that for us. And so we want to do everything that we can with the business that we're developing to be able to give back and serve the local communities. And so that's actually our mindset that we've had for the past few years. Since we really started to see things grow and develop, we've really had those moments with each other of, oh, awesome, like we've made this amount this year, but you know what, that's great, but how much can we give back to the community or back to the Lord that he's provided us this amazing blessing? And so just kind of wanted to share that because that all ties into like where we're coming faith-based and being Christians and just our values. And so that's just our mindset shift that we've had. And it was a beautiful time that we decided to do that. I will say though, it was hard.
Yeah.
It wasn't an easy thing to just like flip the switch and be like, yeah, let's do this. It took a lot of prayer and a lot of talking and a lot of thought. And ultimately it's just blessed us even more. In fact, it's blessed more people than we even know. And that's the biggest one I think you could have in this world is how can you bless people and not even know it, right? And so we're just super grateful for the opportunity that we have to be able to make that decision with our business. And yeah.
Yeah. So like you said, like nowadays we set goals at the beginning of every year. We review those monthly when we do our monthly finances reviews, and we'll get into more details of how we do that later in this episode. But yeah, like Lauren was saying, that those goals nowadays for us are centered around like not how much can we earn this year, but like how much would we be able to give. And so just wanted to share that with you guys, that mindset shift that we had over the last few years. And yeah, it's just really been a blessing, that change in mindset.
Now that we've touched upon that, let's hit our next point here. So we're going to get into a little bit more pricing and taxes stuff, which is always fun. And I know we just got out of tax season a little while ago, but we're going to help kind of shed some light on that and help you guys just kind of prepare a little bit. We're not by any means, we're not like accountants or experts or anything like that.
Yeah, no financial or tax advice will be given from us, but we'll share our experiences.
We're just going to share just little tips that might be helpful for you guys, that has been helpful for us to prepare for those types of situations. Again, we are not experts in this. We are not professionals. We're just sharing what we've done on our personal side and hoping it helps you guys along the way as well.
Yeah. So the first thing we wanted to talk about is just like realistic expectations in terms of profit margins on Etsy as you're selling print on demand products. And so I would say in general, when we price our products, that the target is usually like 20%. And so somewhere around that 15 to 20% is usually the target. Some products you do better than that. Some are closer to that 15, but in general, that's kind of the range that you're expecting. And I just share that because I want to set those realistic expectations. You can do a $100,000 month and flash the revenue and it's really cool, but what hits your bank account? What do you take home? And realistically, that's around 20%. That's what we've experienced over the lifetime of our experience on Etsy. And yeah, just wanted to give a little insight into that for you guys who maybe you are brand new to this and don't maybe fully understand. You just see everyone flashing those high revenue numbers, and it can be a little misleading, right? And so one thing that I wanted to encourage and just talk a little bit about is the importance of diving into your numbers as the business owner yourself and fully understanding those margins for yourself, right? When you start to list products or you go through your margin analysis, hopefully you do go through that margin analysis. I guess that's my point, is that I really encourage you guys to go through that detailed margin analysis as you set prices on Etsy, that you fully understand where all those fees are coming from, what your marketing spend is going to be, like what are you going to be left with at the end of each sale. And I think after working with many clients, that's a touchy subject. And I think a part that a lot of people struggle with. I know not everyone like loves numbers. I haven't,
didn't.
right. Yeah, I have an engineering background, so like the numbers come more easily for me, and I enjoy looking at the numbers and looking at spreadsheets.
I'd rather turn a blind eye.
Right.
Just kidding, but kinda.
Yeah, and many people are that way, and I just want to caution you guys to not turn the blind eye, right? And encourage you to dive into the numbers sooner than later. Start to get in those habits of looking at your finances monthly, having an informal monthly review. And yeah, it doesn't need to be anything formal. Like I know we started when we started working together in the business in 2023, we started to get in that cadence of just having that monthly meeting. And it would just be like, I would send a meeting invite on my phone to Lauren, like, hey, we're going to have this monthly business
I'd
review.
decline. I'm just kidding.
Sometimes you would decline and suggest a new time. But
I'd show up. I'm just kidding.
but we would have those monthly meetings. And I think it's really important that, especially if you're doing this with a partner or with a spouse, you're working as a team, it's really important that you guys are both on the same page, that you understand those finances, what your bottom line is each month, and so that you can make adjustments as you go. The worst thing that can happen is, you set a random price for your products. Maybe you look at some other shops on Etsy, or someone gives you a recommended price, and you kind of just take that blindly and run with it. And you're like, well, I'll worry about this later. Right now, I don't really have any sales. And the huge risk of doing that is, well, eventually you're going to get sales, right? If you're going to have a real business. And if you continue to just turn a blind eye to those finances, it's a really not a fun time when you do look at them 12 months later, when you have to do taxes, or 6 months later, when you're like, hey, I wonder how I'm doing. And if that number is low or not what you expected, it's not fun. And so, yeah, I would just really encourage you guys to like lean into your numbers and know your margins, be really comfortable with all those fees, each line of that profit analysis and that margin analysis. So yeah, it's really important. I know we're spending a lot of time talking about it, but it's that important.
But I think too, just going off of that, I know I joked about declining our monthly meetings. I don't actually. I just sometimes I feel like I want to. But I think that's an important thing to know. Like, instead of looking, when it's tax season or when it's the end of a season or the year, and looking and then like kind of being like, okay, like I hope, like fingers crossed, hope things worked out. Start to get into that method or like that schedule of, hey, I'm going to set a monthly meeting with myself. And you know what? The first couple ones or the first few ones are going to probably be painful because you're learning something new. Maybe you're seeing things that are a little frustrating. But the thing is you're now aware of it, right? And you're starting to learn it. And at the end of the day, like even when I was saying like I'd rather not look at the numbers, but now that we meet every single month and we talk about things and we're on the same page, I'm confident in them. I can confidently talk about them, and I can confidently help guide some of our students that are going through some struggles with it, and just talk them through it with confidence, because we're in it so much that I now can, I feel confident to share that. right? And so I just encourage you guys to be, if you're starting out or if you're in it and you're not loving that part, try to change that perspective and like ultimately like learn to love it. It's not fun. I didn't like it at first, right? I didn't really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But now I have no problem with it. We do the monthly finances, budgets, everything, and we do it as a team, and then we talk about it. And that skill developed, but it only developed because we were doing it together as a team. And the other thing, like if you're not working with anybody, that's perfectly fine as well. Like just get into that habit with yourself. Like learn to do it. Schedule those meetings with yourself and don't decline them.
Yeah.
Show up to them and make it an opportunity to learn and kind of change that perspective. Although it can be frustrating, it's an opportunity to learn. And then when you start to see those numbers the way you want, you're like, I do get it. I am loving this. Like I can see it now. So just giving you that little bit of encouragement that we all have to deal with. We all have to look at our finances with any business or anything that you're doing. And so kind of look at it in a different perspective and attack it in a way that you're like, I'm going to learn this and I'm going to end up loving how to do this. Instead of turning that blind eye and being like, waiting a prayer, I hope things work out. So I think it was a very important thing to talk about.
Yeah. And I think one thing I just thought of, so Lauren and I, as we've ventured into this new YouTube journey and content creation and podcasts, we've been doing our own studying on the side, and we've been really leaning in toward the Think Media YouTube page, which is just one of the biggest platforms that are channels that teaches people how to do YouTube. And so one of the things that Sean Cannell, who owns that company, always says is one of their mottos in his company, Think Media, is like, everything is figure outable. And so I really loved that saying, right? And I think it really applies to just business in general, right? Especially new business owners on Etsy, right? And so finances and learning how to look at the numbers and understand them, that's oftentimes one of the first things you need to learn. And there's so many other skills that you guys will have to learn over time, and just,
or that you've developed already.
right. And try and adopt that mindset that like you can figure out everything. Everything is figure outable. And so, yeah, lean into that and add this to your list if you're not there yet, to go tackle it and to be confident and knowing your numbers.
And I think too, last thing I'll just add to that is it goes with like the figure outable kind of thing, but it's also the mentality and just like kind of like pulling yourself up from the bootstraps, which is like, I need to learn this. Like I have to learn this to have a successful business. Right. And so just kind of changing that mentality and seeing it as an opportunity to learn and just grow your business and develop it. I think that also goes hand in hand with what Sean says too.
Yeah, definitely. So the other thing we wanted to touch on was taxes, everyone's favorite topic. It's my least favorite day of the year. I absolutely hate tax day when I have to sit down and,
no offense to tax accountants.
Yeah, but just sitting down and spending the day tying up all the loose ends and closing out your books for the year. It's the worst day ever for me. And on top of that, at the end, having to make the big payment to pay your taxes is never fun. But it's important, and we want to touch on it a little bit here. So I think what's really important, especially for new business owners who maybe haven't had to navigate this yet, is at least to have in the back of your mind a target of, hey, I know I'm going to need to pay taxes on this money that I'm earning, and saving some of that money for that time when that tax season rolls around. And I think in general, saving like 25-30% of your income is usually what's recommended. Definitely talk to your tax professionals to get formal advice on that. But I think just don't fall into that trap thinking that, hey, I'm starting to make this money on Etsy. I can just start to, pull it into my personal bank account and spend it. Be wise with your money as you earn that in your business, and make sure you guys are saving for taxes.
That's the tax info we're sharing. That's it.
Yeah. So there's one other part that, and we won't get into it, but maybe in future videos we'll talk about like different tax structures. Maybe right now we're an S corporation. We, for the past few years, we ran our business as an LLC, and so different pros and cons of all those things. A lot of you guys may be starting as just sole proprietorships, and so yeah, a whole different set of considerations and things like that. But maybe we can get into more details of those things in a future video for those of you guys who are interested.
Yeah. So for those of you that we're all out of tax season right now. If you're watching this video in July, just keep that in your mind. You know, keep the opportunity to save and prepare for that, so it's not the nightmare that it already can be, right? So, yeah, I think that's huge.
Yeah, definitely. So the next topic that we wanted to talk about with you guys, because I know many of you jump into Etsy because maybe you don't love your job, maybe you're looking to create additional income, and maybe one day be able to step away from your job. And so one of the things we wanted to talk about is our experience, right? Both of us left our 9-to-5 jobs over the last 12 months. So we want to talk a little bit about that experience, and then maybe shed some light on, for you guys who are maybe earlier on in that journey and have those aspirations, like when is the right time? What goes into that decision, and when is the right time to step away and maybe make that leap and go Etsy full time?
Yeah, so I'll just kind of start in the beginning. We talked about this in episode 1, just about when I started on Etsy. I really didn't know what it was going to bring, honestly. So when I was working on Etsy before we got married and started doing it together, I was just seeing it as an additional income. And I was like, this is really great. I'm so grateful for it. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? I'm okay if things aren't always positive. You know, sometimes you hit those negative months or weeks or whatever and stings every time. But I was grateful for that because I wasn't as stressed in the sense of I had my job that I was working. Mm-hmm. So I knew that I had that full-time income at that time, right? And so I was like, okay, well, at least I have something that's consistent for now. I know things can always change at any point for anybody, right? But at that point, it was, I had a job and I was able to see it as an extra opportunity to make some extra money and kind of see where it goes. And it just developed more and more as I put more work into it. And then as we got married and worked together, it just continued to grow with the efforts that we put into it. And so for us, Connor started in 2020. I started in 2022. We made the decision to quit our jobs ultimately, him for the end of 2024 and me at the beginning of January this year, 2025. And we just hit a point that, we talked about it in episode 1 a little bit, but we were getting to that point, and we were so grateful for this, was that we either had to pick our jobs or we had to pick the business. Mm-hmm. And so that I'm sharing all of that with you guys because that was our cue and our ultimate decision maker with a lot of other things. And like we talked about with praying and talking a lot about decision making, but ultimately, the business was growing to the point that we needed to make that decision. Otherwise, one was going to go and one wasn't. And so we felt there was a lot more opportunity with the Etsy world and, being your own business owner and boss. We thought that there was just a lot more opportunity there and the flexibility to just life. And again, we're so grateful for that. And we don't take that for granted by any means. But that's how it kind of flourished for us. We hit the point where we were like, okay, we either go here or we go here. And when we made that decision, we felt really confident about it because we had put in so much time and effort that it wasn't, we were just taking that leap of faith. It was very intentionally thought through. And
yeah. So I think to share a little bit more just about our scenario, I think we definitely lean like way more conservative in that sense in terms of finances. And so we probably waited far too long in most people's minds of like, yeah, we had definitely surpassed our income from our day jobs at the point when we stepped away from those and went all out on the Etsy business. Like Lauren said, we've been working on this for years. I started in 2020. She started in 2022, and then we started doing it together when we got married in 2023. And so all those years, the last 4.5 years before we ultimately made that decision to step away, you know, we had those full-time jobs and the income, and that's what we were able to live off of. And so the business, it really just was all going into savings and really allowed us to very confidently make that leap when it felt like the right time in our lives to do that. And that can be you guys' experience as well, right? I know a lot of you guys right now have full-time jobs with those aspirations that one day maybe this can be full-time, or maybe this can be part of your retirement strategy to have that business in your later years. And I just want to encourage you guys that you can do both, right? It can slowly build up over time. That's been our experience, and it worked really well for us to, I think, not put the stress on the business, especially at the beginning, right? Because we had our income from our regular jobs, we didn't feel the pressure or the stress of the business needing to generate the revenue or generate the profit immediately. And so the reason for that, obviously, we weren't like trying to eat or pay bills off the business within the first months that it was open. And I think that there's something really special and important about that aspect that maybe some people overlook. And I think taking away that pressure, taking away that stress allows you to think more long term and to make decisions for your business that are more long term minded. And I think ultimately that allows you to grow much quicker and do things the right way, to not try and take shortcuts because hey, you need to pay the bill the next month, or you need to go get groceries and you're relying on that Etsy paycheck. And so if you guys do have a job right now, even if you don't love it, if you hate it, if you want to get out, like try and be thankful for that opportunity that you can do both right now, that we have this opportunity to do print on demand, that you can have a business anywhere in the world and start to generate income, and be okay with the season that you're in and dedicate that time, go all out. And it, month over month and year over year, the hard work that you put in, it slowly but surely can surpass that day job income, that 9 to 5 income that you have. And yeah, that's been our experience.
Yeah, and I think too, the other thing to kind of look at, and I know it's probably hard to think this way because I really didn't have this necessarily this vision of, oh, it's just a temporary season, right? You know, a couple seasons or a couple years. But ultimately, if you have that mindset and you just really put everything in it with your day job, and then you work, you know, the more early mornings, late nights, weekends, all that stuff, say no to certain things because you have to, you know, put time into the business. It can be a temporary season or, you know, chunk of time that then you can look back on and be like, wow, like those late nights and early mornings that we put in, it's amazing. Like it paid off. I didn't know it would ever pay off. I thought we were in the trenches forever in that type of season where we were working late nights, early mornings forever. I really did. But it eventually started to grow and we started to get out of that. So I just, again, share that mentality with you guys is like, it's only temporary that it has to be that way where you're grinding a lot. And I know a lot of you are putting in that work and a lot of elbow grease to get to where you want to be. But the encouragement here is like, continue to stick with it because we're walking testimonies of that. And like I said in the beginning, I didn't know that was going to be how it was going to end up. I had no idea I'd be sitting on this podcast talking to you guys about that. So it's just, I just, again, share all that. We share all that just to kind of give you guys insight. And again, I want to touch some light on that. No matter the situation you're in, like our path isn't the perfect path. It's not like we just, had the most amazing journey and we chose the right things for the perfect person. It just ended up working out the best way for us. And so we just share this stuff with you guys because it's the way it's impacted our lives. We want it to be able to impact you.
Yeah.
And that's like the ultimate goal here is why we even are sharing anything is to be able to give you guys that hope and give you guys that, changed mindset or opportunity or encouragement to be like, you know what? Yeah, this is not fun right now for me, but hey, they're here. And if they're here, I could be there. Like that's the mentality we want you guys to have. And it's 100%, 1,000% possible for any of you watching that's in this business or any business. Just stick it out. And yeah, I just think it's so important. And try not to rush it if you can. Let the business kind of grow and flourish and eventually make that decision. But if, like I said, if that is not your case and you're like, this is all I got, well, let's make it work. You got it. Like it doesn't have to be our way,
Yeah. You're touching on a good point there that, everyone's story is unique. And I think there's definitely people out there who are way more risk averse than we are. Right. And so maybe they do make that leap way earlier in the journey before, they have that consistent income and they're just going to go all out and make it work. And that's been a lot of people's stories. And so we're not saying that can't be your story. We just want to shed some light on what was our experience and what worked well for us. I think one that stands out to me specifically for those of you guys who know a little bit about Jesse's story, he shares it in other videos and even in the course.
We've talked about Jesse in the prior episode, but Jesse is the owner of Inner Circle Prints for those of you that don't know.
Yeah. And so he started selling on Etsy, I think, when he was like 19. Yeah. And him and his wife, he got married pretty shortly after high school and has 3 amazing kids now. But I think at that time, they found out they were having their first daughter on the way. And he had just started selling on Etsy. He was doing like jewelry out of his apartment or out of his house at that time. And so his story is like he just jumped in the deep end and like he had to make it work right away. And with a baby on the way and a wife and family to provide for, and look at where he is now, right? Did $10 million in sales, has built a huge production company, served so many other sellers through that company now, like 10 plus years later. And so that can absolutely be your story. We're not saying you guys can't do that. But yeah, just wanted to share that part of it as well.
Yeah. So your journey is your journey. And whatever journey you're on, it's a beautiful one. It might be painful, but it's a beautiful journey. And it can be beautiful just changing that mindset and just, looking at it as an opportunity to provide for your future and try and take that stress away from yourself of like, I have to make this work. I have to make this work. I have to make this work, and be like, I get to make this work, right? Instead of like, I get to make this work. And I think it's just that mindset shift is going to change everything, no matter what stage of life you're in. If you were doing it because you just quit your job and you're like, I got to do it, or you kind of were taking a path like us, or like I said, like you're taking the path like Jesse did. He had to make it work, but he had that mentality of like, I've got to make this work, and I get to make this work because I get to provide for my family. And so just having that slight mindset shift, I think can just change a whole path and trajectory for your business and for yourself. So again, we're just shedding some light on our personal experience. It's not shame on you for your experience or, we did it the right way or you're doing it the wrong way. It's, again, just our personal experience, and we're cheering on anybody in the journey, and amazing job that you're even taking this leap of faith and, wanting to invest in yourself and your family or your future or whatever it is. It takes a lot of courage. So we're celebrating you guys and cheering you on, and we can be your biggest cheerleaders over here if you need it, but we probably are. We do love to celebrate our people. So
the last thing that we wanted to talk about is, and we kind of touched on it earlier in the episode, but just like debt. And I know that's a touchy word. Like I said earlier, a lot of people struggle with debt, and it adds stress and just complexity to their lives. But we wanted to share a little bit just kind of our experience. And so we've mentioned we're big Dave Ramsey fans, and we talked a little bit about credit cards and all that. And so we also are debt free. We don't have any debt. We don't use debt in our lives.
And I just want to shed some light on that real quick. Sorry to cut you off, but that we're debt free now, and we share that in a very humble way, in the sense of like, we've worked hard for that. Okay. So we weren't just like thrown in this magical world and, oh, they were given this silver platter. That was it. In fact, I think we had a paper plate. I don't even know. I don't think it was China or anything. It was, you work hard and you get to where we are. And so we share that in a very humble and very grateful way. But it took a lot of hard work, because I just want to share too, like it's not like we were debt free forever. And it's a reality for a lot of people. A lot of people are chained to debt. And so we're sharing this not because we're naive or oblivious and we have this perfect life. We both had pretty significant debt with student loans and medical bills. I know when I tore my ACL, that was a pretty big bill. And so I'm just sharing that stuff with you guys to not sound like we're on this pedestal and we're, again, better than you or better than anyone we're talking to or better than anybody. We get it. We were there. And so we're sharing this to shed some light and just give some opportunity for you guys to kind of just dig into a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think that the reason we're bringing it up is because it does tie back to Etsy and our story, right? Like Lauren said, we both graduated from college and we both had significant debt that we ended up paying off and had to really buckle down and be really intentional in doing that. But coming out on the other side of that, it just opened up so many opportunities for us, and things like Etsy, to be able to go all out on Etsy and have that extra cash flow from our day jobs to put back into the business and get that started. And I think not being crippled by car payments and other types of debt and things like that, it allowed us over those years to put all that money from the business into our savings. And so that, 4.5 years later, we could make that big leap and quit our jobs and go all out on our business and move across the country. And so, we just wanted to share that side of it, and really as encouragement. Like, I know a lot of you guys, your story is you're starting Etsy because maybe you do have some debt that you want to pay down, and Etsy's an amazing opportunity to do that. It can be that side hustle. It can be that side gig.
Just to touch on that, like we were talking about a little earlier, like the print on demand business side, as we encouraged before, it doesn't have to be that huge investment, right? So you're not putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into your print on demand business on Etsy, which that's like amazing. The risk in that is a beautiful thing if you look into that a little bit more, because a lot of businesses that start, and again, this is no shame to anybody. I think it's fantastic that anyone wants to start a business, but a lot of businesses, you have to put tens of thousands of dollars,
sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So I think I just, again, share that as an opportunity to see this is such a blessing and an opportunity that, hey, you don't have to do that. You get to actually not put that much into it if you don't want to, and you still can see the fruits of that. So I
still think that's the biggest reason why print on demand, in my mind, it's the best opportunity I've come across still to this day for someone new to business who like wants to dip their toes in entrepreneurship in the business world. Like, I don't think there's any better opportunity out there in terms of upside with the risk that's associated with it.
The risk is just so low.
Yeah. So I think that pretty much wraps up what we wanted to talk about on today's episode. And so we thank you guys for watching. If you have any topics, as we said before, that you guys want us to cover in future episodes, be sure to leave those in the comments. And yeah, we thank you guys for watching.
Yeah. Thank you guys.